I can remember as a junior high student going to ball games, but really remember vividly in high school going to ball games and how much fun it was. It was a fun atmosphere. That was back when in high schools when Coach Compton took over when I was a junior, and so that was a fun season.
I played 3 years for the Mules back in '77 when I was a sophomore, '78, and also '79. We were tri-champions. Only one team went to playoffs back then, and we were tri-champions in '77. Had a three-way tie. We lost the flip to go to the playoffs. '78 and '79, we were district champions. There was a man named Don Compton. He's kind of a legendary coach. Ended up in Hereford where he had grown up. And then the final 2 years was a guy by the name of Mike Wardis that left here, went to Denver City, went to Fort Worth, Boswell. Ended up being Canyon head coach and athletic director, and ended up being superintendent at
I went to MHS in '83. I graduated in '86, and so in '83 we had a district. We had made it to the playoffs and actually won a playoff game against Perryton. It was the last second field goal where we won that game, and ended up going to play Post the next week. And while many people thought we should have beat Post, we ran a quarterback sneak from about the half-yard line, and most folks think we made it in. They didn't. The referees didn't think so. Actually, two of the three refs thought we did, but the main ref came in and called it off, and so that was kind of the end of that season. The next season, '84, I think we went 3-6, and then I think the drought started around that time. Pretty tough seasons after that. We're kind of in a rain drought right now, but back in those years, it was we were kind of in a drought for winning games in Muleshoe. My senior year, we went 0-9. Which was kind of disappointing. There was, like they say, a series of unfortunate events that happened that were beyond our control. But there were some tough years. But nonetheless, we played ball. I played linebacker and guard back in those years. My junior and senior year when I played varsity ball, the program had me at about 165, but I think I was about 150 with 155 with all my pads on. Our coach then was a first-year coach. At my senior year, his name was Dale Keeling. And I believe he was here for about 3 or 4 years after I graduated. I think he was here for a few years after that.
In '85, actually it was April, and Easter Sunday was our first Sunday. It was April 1st that year. And it's just been our 33rd anniversary here. The school was great. Our son Chris, of our 4 boys, he was the first. He started school here that fall, and that worked out great. The football program was in a world of hurt at that point. We were not winning. It had been a good while since we had, and honestly, we knew when the kids stepped on the field, we knew that we weren't going to win. We just hoped that nobody get hurt bad, and so it was pretty tough time.
When I came to Muleshoe in April of 1991, we were told by the search committee and a few members of the churches, "We hope you didn't come for the football program." They had been 1-9 the year before. My first year here, they went 1-9. The second year I was at Muleshoe, they went 0-10. And I remember Bill Moore handing me a state ranking of 2A football teams across the state, and Muleshoe was next to last on the list, in front of Poteet.
That was 1984 to 1995. We had a total of 25 wins during those 12 years. That's just slightly over 2 wins a year, and barely over 2 wins. The last 5 years before David came, we had 7 wins in 5 years. And those were some really tough years. In 91, we went 0-10, we went 2-8, we went 3-7, we went 2-7, and we went 0-8. And it was some lean times. I don't think it was because we didn't have the athletes. I don't think our kids changed any. In fact, the year before David came, in my opinion, we had one of the most physically talented teams that Muleshoe's ever produced, and we finished 0-8 that year.
I started watching Muleshoe football when I started teaching in Muleshoe back in 1972-73 school year. Probably haven't missed many, especially home games. One season I did miss quite a few because of family illness. When we first moved to Muleshoe, it was pretty thin years, 0-10, 1-9, several years in a row that we did not win a game or more than one or two in the season.
We had just finished 0-10, and the previous 4 years we had won 8 and lost 32. And I remember all of that because Ronnie Jones and we covered the sports for Channel 6 about 30 years, and of course we kept up with all the records and everything, you know. But it was very low.
From the time we played back, I think '83 was the last time they won a championship. Or what I'd say gold football was in 1983, and it's real interesting. You know, they hadn't won a district champion until Coach Wood came, district championship, and from 1979. And you'll hear a little bit more later on about the first district champion they won here, and that was in 1998, 19 years.
And we had started with a group of community guys prior to David coming, trying to get something going for the Mules. We got in a bigger, faster, stronger program. We started having weightlifting exercises. We started gathering money to get weightlifting equipment, knowing that our kids need to be bigger, faster, and stronger. And yet we went through these years carrying kids off the field. We had multiple injuries. It was really, really tough to watch. Probably one of the low points that I can remember, and when I really decided that we needed some help, was back in '93. Littlefield beat us 60-0. And that's about the low point of your life if Littlefield beats you 60-0. That just shouldn't happen in football.
So, and speaking with Mike Ward, this is an interesting deal. He was the athletic director over Coach Wood when we hired him from he was at Canyon Randall, assistant coach at Canyon Randall. And the interesting thing, I heard he was one of the finalists for the job, and I called Coach Wardis myself. I said, I want you to tell me about this guy. I heard you give him a good reputation. I mean, a good recommendation, and I want you to tell me about this. This coach that we've got as one of our finalists up here. And he said, Sam, I'm gonna be truthful as anything as I can tell you. He said, if anybody can turn that program around, this young man can. So
I was on the school board. In fact, if I had to list, I guess on one hand, the 5 things that I am proudest of in my 18 years on the school board, way up toward the top, and maybe the top, would be hiring David and Jody. It was a long process. We knew it was important. It's hard, and we worked hard at it. I remember when David and Jody came, and the entire board interviewed them, and I was impressed. In fact, I was so impressed. I don't know if I've ever told them this. My only concern was they were so decorative. I mean, they looked like they kind of might belong on a cake, and it was hard for me to believe that somebody that looked that good could actually have that much substance about them. But David and Jody both just astounded me from the first. They were incredibly impressive in every way, and it was really one of the best things that I ever had a part in doing.
And I'll notice that one of the things that separated Jody when they came to our church, they joined, and it was just a couple of weeks later, and we had an after-church dinner, a potluck dinner, if you will, and she and David stayed and cleaned up. They'd been here a couple of weeks, and they stayed to clean up, and that made a huge impact on the church and really set the tone for the respect and care and the reputation that they've enjoyed here in our church family.
This was, I think this was pretty shortly after he came in here, and he was, I was really impressed. He was young. I think he was in his mid-30s, and he had been assistant coach up, like I mentioned, at Canyon Randall, up there in Real area, Canyon area. And he just, I never thought that he'd have the success he had as far as winning the state championship, but I just had a feeling that he was going to do a good job here in Muleshoe.
When David was introduced as the athletic director in Muleshoe, I'd been teaching here for some time, but just like all new coaches, you give him a chance to come in and do his thing, make his program work. And over the years, he certainly did make an impression.
And I got to meet him a few weeks before Mike did, because that was when I was working in the superintendent's office. So I got to meet him when he came and did interviews. We've known them since the time they moved here. Coach Wood was so friendly and so outgoing, and everybody was very happy to see him here, and we all thought that he was a good choice for the job.
But I was talking to him a little bit, and I just asked him a question. I said, "Man, what do you think? How's everything going?" And he had talked about some of the people wanting to know, when am I going to get this weight room full? We got to get these kids bigger, stronger. And he looked me right in the eye and he said, "I don't care how big and strong we are. If they don't believe they can win, we still can't win." So that's what he had to instill in the boys is belief that they can
Very
win.
apparent when David come on the scene here that he had a mission for Muleshoe High School football, and he shared that mission with everybody, not only with the students and the players, but with the community and with the administration. I remember when David come here as a football coach, football was more or less at the bottom of the pit at Muleshoe High School. Things had not been very positive at all.
Well, we were having at church what we called soup and sandwich. We did it for a number of years. I don't remember exactly how many, but in August that year, of course, we just had hired Coach Wood, and I thought, hey, this is a great time to get him to come and to talk to us. In fact, he did several programs down through the years just before school started each year, but that was the first. And I looked at the video you showed me of that. Wow, we were incredibly young, and boy, the styles have changed. But it was a great time, and Coach Wood was excited. You could tell we were all excited to have David and Jody here, and it was just it was a neat time.
When I first interviewed for this job back in spring, Bill Moore told me, Muleshoe is a great place to raise kids, and ever since we've been here at Muleshoe, we've experienced that tenfold. It's just, your kids are wonderful, the school is wonderful, the town is great, everyone's so friendly. We have little gatherings like this all over the place every day. I've been blessed with a great staff that we've assembled here, and the kids are just, the attitudes have just been remarkable with the kids this fall.
1996, David came in. He had a huge chore in front of him. Our kids didn't have a good attitude. They didn't have discipline. They didn't have technique. They didn't know how to be a team, and mostly they didn't know how to win. It's easy to be a loser because that comes natural, but to be a winner, it's a learned skill. You have to learn that when things get tough, you double down, you keep going, and you refuse to get beat. But it's easy to, when things get tough, to just bow and say, well, so much for it, it's just another loss. And so that first year wasn't a phenomenal year. It was a 1-9 year under Coach Wood. I was the Booster Club president that year. I knew things were looking up because David's focus was in the right areas. We kept a positive attitude because we knew that there were going to be better things to come.
A while back, a couple of years ago, and I kind of get emotional sometimes, so I'm going to let her come and read this to you.
Football fever. Football season is in full force. Thursday and Friday nights are filled with the sights and sounds of the fall football season. The bands are tuned up, cheerleaders are leading yells, and the stands are filled with fans. Each season, a poem written by an unknown author makes the rounds in area publications. It has a great message for those fans who may occasionally forget who and what is during the gridiron action. Please don't curse that boy down there. He is my son, you see. He's only just a boy, you know, and he means the world to me. I did not raise my son, dear fan, for you to call him names. He may not be a superstar, and these are only games. So please don't curse those boys down there. They do the best they can. They never tried to lose a game. They're boys and you're a man. This game belongs to them, you see. You're really just a guest. They don't need a fan like you. They need the very best. If you have nothing nice to say, please leave the boys alone. And if you have no manners, why don't you stay at home? So please don't curse those boys down there. Each one's his parent's son. And win or lose or tie, you see, to us they're number one. While the author is not known, it is obvious that it was written by a caring parent. And the message is loud and clear. A football team or volleyball, basketball band needs the support of the community. However, they need positive support. Let's all plan to give our young people the support they need and deserve, but keep in mind that it is indeed their game and not ours. Thank you.
Good afternoon, football fans, and welcome to Greyhound Stadium in Portales, New Mexico. Tonight, the Muleshoe Mules will kick off their 96-97 football season against the Portales Rams.
Ronnie, Coach David Wood, as you mentioned, will be starting off at his debut tonight as the head coach of the Mules, and there's a lot of excitement. They have a lot of players out this year, and they've had a lot of enthusiasm, and I think they're really looking forward to this game with the Portales Rams. They've had 2 scrimmages with Floridata and Morton. The Mules will run from what Coach Wood calls an offset I formation on offense. They'll run the tailback a lot. They'll run some traps. They'll run some sprint out passes. They'll run the fullback up the middle and off tackle some.
And I remember his first year as coach, he went several games before he had the opportunity to get his first victory under his belt. And I remember the night he got his first victory. It was towards the end of the season at Sanford Fritch on a cold, windy, wintry night. And I remember how excited David was.
He started our oldest son, Chris's junior year. And I'll never forget the first game we won, Sanford Fritch. There was just, just a little cluster of people in the stands that drove that far. And oh, the excitement that night. We had so much fun that night.
That hadn't happened in a long time. It was like a rain after a drought. It was, exactly that.
When he first took over that spring, when he came in as our AD and head football coach, we still had an open campus at lunch. And I can remember he spent most of his time at lunch following kids around and breaking up fights and making sure kids were toeing the line, which was a little different than what kids had experienced over the last few years and at the lunch period especially.
Expected the very best out of you, and from the get-go at a junior high age, he told us this program is not an easy program, and if you're going to be involved, you better be ready to work, sacrifice your time, and really be disciplined athletes. And that's what he molded us and raised us to be, as very disciplined young men who, and I believe it worked out for a lot of us, carrying that discipline on the rest of our lives because of what he did.
Coach Wood, he takes disciplining student athletes very serious. He expects us to do the right things on and off the field. He expects us to be leaders in the classroom also, and in public. He doesn't want us messing up. If anybody messed up, it was he get to the top of it and get it taken care of. Not tomorrow, not the day after, but immediately.
Yeah, he was a no-nonsense coach. He definitely would fit the punishment for whatever thing you did. He would make you do hard yards. There was a hard 10 for 10 miles for 10 days. So, I mean, he definitely wouldn't let anything slide. And he was, what he would say, he was all-knowing. If you did something on the weekend that you thought you'd get away with it, he said, I'm going to hear about it. And most of the time he did. And you were punished that following Monday.
Coach Wood's discipline was very strict. He had a grasp on everybody on that team. No matter what you were doing, he knew what you were doing. And he would, like a coach or a father, he would kind of lay the law down because he knew he had to. I remember firsthand his discipline almost after every practice when he would say, "This is the last sprint." And sure enough, we had another 5 sprints after he said this was the last one.
But one of the big things he brought to the school is he brought discipline. And he had his set rules, and you played by them or you just didn't play. So
I do remember one time when we weren't so glad. I don't remember it very well because I wasn't here. We weren't so glad that Coach Wood was here. I really think we had some. The Shelburne boys were good guys, but they were pretty normal teenagers. And I remember one incident when I was out of town helping plan a church youth rally, a deal for Christian youth. And one of the Christian youth under my own roof got into a little trouble that weekend. Juana called me and said, "Oh, we've had a deal here," and he will remain nameless to protect the guilty.
But that night, to show how Coach Wood was interested in the whole athlete, the whole person, our son, he said, "Oh, Mom, Coach Wood won't ever find out." And I said, "Oh, yes, he will, because you're going to call him and tell him."
You're going to tell him.
And because it was going against one of the rules that Coach Wood had for his team. And that night, and it so happened Josh was over at Coach Wood's house at the time anyway. So I said, I called over there. I said, "If you don't mind, bring Josh home and you come on and over. We need to visit a while." And Coach Wood sat on my couch for at least 2 hours or more. It was a long time visiting with our son, and we got past that, and he handled it in a very, I think that boy learned his lesson.
Oh, he did.
He did.
And runs off on the school. He is an excellent disciplinarian. Probably the most best thing about his discipline tactics is that he's fair, and I've never seen him waver, regardless what player he may be disciplined. It didn't matter if it was the star on the team or the kid that sat on the bench. He treated them all the same. He's a very fair man.
The River Road game, and I can't remember the exact year, but the River Road game when we went into overtime, and the Mules hung in there and hung in there and hung in there and then won that game. And that, I felt, was a turning point for the program. I remember Bill Moore, our superintendent, walking out on the field and meeting David out on the 40 or 50-yard line and giving him a hug after the game. And I thought, well, if the superintendent can go out on the field, then I can go out on the field. And the whole stands emptied out on the field, and it was really a great celebration. But that was the game that I felt like David turned the corner. And then the next year we made the playoffs, and things just kind of inched along and moved along, and it was a great turning point game. I will say this too, I think that was a game when we realized the value of hard work. I had a parent of one of the boys on that team that won that River Road game. And he made the comment to me, he said, "I'm not sure that victory was worth all the work." And I thought that comment summed up the stream in which David was swimming against, that the idea that winning just happens, that it just, you do your best and it'll just happen. Winning takes work, and David taught those young men how to work, how to train, how to be committed, how to believe in themselves, and he really pushed against a stream of negativism when it came to the athletic program in Muleshoe at that time. They will never be any good, will never get it accomplished, and it's really not worth all the work. That comment and that game kind of demonstrated to me that what David was up against, first of all, and secondly, that he was making progress and pushing those negative ideas out of the way.
At that particular time when he first started coaching, we really had some battles with not only Littlefield but Freona. Freona was quite a rivalry, and we had some outstanding games with both of those teams. And then
other folks, but I think the Mud Bowl had to be one of the clearest turning points. We had that.
Okay, Sam.
We got trounced. They had a good coach. Coach Morton was up at Freona, and he was a great coach. And because, as we saw, as he went beyond Freona, but we were getting trounced pretty regularly by Freona at that point in time. But David finally got the kids to believe in themselves enough that we went up there and played in the Mud Bowl, and it was the worst of conditions, the easiest conditions in the world to have quit, but our kids didn't quit. You know, they bowed up. They got after them, and we ended up winning that game. And it's probably one of the biggest games that I remember as being a turning point.
A little history. Friona has won 15 of the last 17 meetings between these two teams, and they can date back games with Muleshoe all the way back to 1926. But big game here tonight. District 2 3A crown is at stake here tonight. The Mules hopefully ready to go against this fine Chieftain Ball Club, and we'll be back in a few minutes for the coin toss. Victor Leal. Victor, what do you think about the first quarter of play?
It looked like an awful good game, Sam. There was kind of a trading punches there, like two heavyweights coming out and kind of feeling each other out. Shame that we got that big run called back, but we're still in the game here, making a good showing.
Big game here. McClanahan brings them to the line, I formation. On 1st and 10, they'll hand off to Pena. A lot of running room. He dodges a tackle, crosses midfield, and gets down to about the 48-yard line. Good tough.
You know, one of the first ones is everybody, if they followed for years, they remember the Mud Bowl. And, you know, at that time we're playing Friona, and it's the 9th game of the year, and we're playing for the district championship. We've got one loss, they're undefeated, and they hadn't lost a game in the regular season in like 3 years. Had a really good team, and we beat them in that Mud Bowl, a game that lasted about 20 hours because it started on Friday night and we had to finish it up for the rain and the storms. We had to finish it up on Saturday.
Lightning getting awful close. We're waiting to see. Let's get everybody out. They're calling it here. The Mules had a break there and couldn't capitalize as they kind of lose the football on 4th down, but Friona will have it there, 1st and 10, just outside their own 17-yard line, and after a little delay here, we'll be back to action as quick as they let it. Well, Ronnie, this game has not only been the biggest in 20 years from Muleshoe, it may be the longest game in the history.
One that I actually didn't get to play, but was one of the most memorable games that I was there to see was the Mud Bowl. You know, just playing the rival Friona, and you know, having it lightning and rain that night and get postponed till the next day, and just, you know, everybody sliding in the mud the next day was just something, you know, that I remember just as one of the best games.
But as far as specific games and all, I remember a couple, and I'm sure many people remember, was that famous Mud Bowl with Friona, and that was a very interesting game to say the least. Back when it used to rain, we had a really muddy field, and if I remember right, I believe that game had to be finished on a Saturday morning because of the weather turned really bad, and so whenever we won that game and were able to pull that out, because Friona had some very strong teams during those years, and whenever these kiddos were able to come together and win that game, especially under some pretty tough circumstances, that was I thought that was a big
defensive stand following that turnover.
I want to tell you what, Sam, that was great defensive play. Now let me tell you something, though, Sam. I don't want to have to suffer through that again, so no more fumbles, okay?
Let's keep the ball. Let's make sure we get them handoffs, and let's put together a long drive here. Straight handoff to Pena in the backfield. He finds a little running room, and he breaks a tackle. He'll cross the 40, get to the 45, 40. He's going to score 30, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! And there's no flags on the field, Ronnie. He breaks the tackle. Greg Pena goes 81 yards, and that ought to do it.
Bring out the trophy now, Sam. Bring out the trophy. What a run by Pena. Friona trying to clog the middle, wanting to tackle the football. Pena just goes 82 yards for the touchdown, and the Mules now lead 13-6, and this one should be over.
McClanahan brings them to the line. He'll hand off to Pena, and he finds running room again. He breaks in the secondary, 10-5, and he scores again.
Sam yesterday said it'd be 21-7, and he's going to be close. This could make it 21-6. Pena, Sam, on the last 2 carries, what did he make in, 20? 100 yards. Good job. 100 yards on the last 2 carries for Greg Pena, and the Mules up 20-6 with 1:23 to go. And Sam, let's see, they scored in 15 seconds in, didn't they?
Ronnie, I'll tell you what, it's terrific. Ryan Hodge splits uprights. Ronnie, I told you yesterday at the start of the ball game, we was making predictions, getting ready. I said the Mules are going to win this ball game, 21-7.
And I think I said, Sam, that's victory here for the Mules. And again, the first time in 19 years they won the district. They do over Freona convincingly. The
Picking grass.
first time they picked grass in a while, isn't it, Sam?
19 or 20 years since we picked some grass and we done it. I tell you what.
Also, I think one of the first things that David accomplished is winning a district championship not too long after he was here. I think everybody remembers the Mud Bowl. It was a ball game with Freona. At that time, Muleshoe had not experienced having a victory over Freona in several years. And the game was played here in Muleshoe, and it came a downpour at halftime, and the game had to be canceled, or suspended rather, and then the game was resumed the next day here at Muleshoe, and it was played. The field was very muddy, and that's where the name Mud Bowl come from. Muleshoe went on and gained a big victory, their first one over Freona in several years, and along with that, their first district championship in several years.
I'd like to say a word about the varsity football team. Would y'all please stand? Okay, this year we've got a new motto in high school. It's called Finish the Race. You'll see that on the back of t-shirts. And they added a little bit to this, which is play in December. We want to finish the race, and we want to play in December. They keep saying something like, KAWC, but I don't know what that means. Okay, the boys are going to step up one at a time, introduce themselves, tell you what position they play and what classification they are.
The first time that I was on varsity, we went into the playoffs and ended up playing against Sanford Fritch and losing. My junior year, we played against Crane in the area playoffs, and just that we really got spanked on that one. And my senior year is when we went to the state semifinals.
The Lincoln Raleigh era was a lot of fun because that was another group of fine young men that really took the program to a different level. And if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong on this, but I remember whenever Lincoln was a quarterback in that year, I think that was the first year that we had been 9-0 since Lincoln's grandfather had gone 9-0 with the Mules. And if I remember correctly, I think Mr. Riley, Mr. Claude Riley, who was our neighbor at the time, I believe he was at that game. And so for him to be watching his grandson quarterback a team being 9-0, I think was a pretty special time, and I remember that. Real fondly during the Lincoln Raleigh era, and again with Ramirez and those kids. That was a lot of fun to watch.
I would say we were pretty impressive as far as size, speed. We always had that small, wiry center that we were known for the last 2 years. Starting off with Rhett Green as our starter center as I was a junior, and when I was a senior, we had a junior starter, and he was about 200 pounds, and Bradley Thomason, but he was wiry, and they both would just get after everybody. And of course, we had Sonny Chavez on the other side, on the other guard, and I had Tommy Brown to my right, which both of us weighed about 250, 275, and we pretty much dominated that side of the line.
Was, you remember when the 2000 run to the playoffs, when they began the playoffs is when they began to change to the passing offense, and they took advantage of Lincoln's arm and Kyle Atwood's legs. I remember walking out of Shotwell Stadium after Lincoln and Kyle had pretty well run the table on Ferris, and the lady was walking out and she said, "Y'all just have to tell me this. Where is Muleshoe, Texas, and where did you get those boys?" And those were memorable games, and they made that transition to passing, and what a difference it made during that playoff.
Some of the other playoff games, were pretty much up there. The game against Ferris is one of them. We were picked to lose that game actually by all the picks, and this was a team that was supposed to be fast and just had all the players, and we ended up just murdering them. And after the game, we actually had a talk with the coaches, and the head coach from Ferris asked Coach Wood, said, "How many players you got going Division I on this team?" And Coach Wood said, "We don't have a single one, Coach." So we may have 5 or 6 going Division II. And, that just shocked the Ferris coach, because he said, "Man, we've got like 8 players going Division I." He said, "How do you not have a single player going Division I?" And then, Coach Wood just laughed it off, and, knew it was just the Mules just getting after him. And he didn't expect anything different than what happened.
But one of the coaches, and I'm not sure if it was there, it was in a playoff game where one of the coaches we were playing against, they were asking him about Coach Wood and about the defense, and Coach Wood said that even the defense is as complicated as Chinese arithmetic. Those kids, and Lincoln's a great example, Lincoln was so smart and able to do what was needed.
There was a few, that I can think of. One of them during the Dalhart game, we were on their 3-yard line. We had 97 yards to go, and of course we're yelling 27 hammer to the sidelines, and I told Lincoln Riley and told Dani Ramirez and the offense in the huddle, I was like, "We run 27 hammer. We're going to score on this play. Just follow me."
First downs as we're going into the wind with 6:55 remaining. Okay, give the ball to Ramirez, breaks outside, breaks another one, and Ronnie, he may be gone if he can get by number 85. Okay, and Ronnie, he's going to go 96 yards. He's going to go 96 yards, and a great block then by Woodard, as Dani Ramirez just tacked on a big one. That shows, Ronnie, why he is the leading rusher in 3A on the South Plains.
There was not a doubt in their mind that we were going to score on this play, and that's what we ended up doing. Went 97 yards.
For me and my family, we followed them to Dallas Cowboys Stadium in 2000, and so that was a really fun time. It was a huge stadium, but I thought we had a really large crowd for a small town, and it was a very exciting time.
Into this game, we were 14-0. That's one of the things that's never been done in Muleshoe history. And the hype around this is, we were given an opportunity to go to Cowboy Stadium, or we had an opportunity to play at Shotwell Stadium. And Coach Wood came in and actually let us vote. He wanted the team to vote of wherever we played, and of course everybody wanted to go play at Cowboy Stadium. But there was a few of us that really wanted to avoid all the hype and all the distractions of Cowboy Stadium. We always thought, hey, we go to state, we could play at Cowboy Stadium, but let's keep our minds right and get to that point. So, he let us decide, and most people decided to go to Cowboy Stadium. But I understand the hype on that. It's where everybody always wanted to play, was to go play at Shotwell Stadium. I really wanted to keep my head in this game and to keep everybody less distracted as possible. And what I remembered about that team was they weren't very big, impressively big, but they just were all just fast. Every single one of them. Their linemen were quick. Their defense was quick and would swarm to the ball. And the thing about Texas Stadium is that it had this huge arch. Underneath it was all concrete and just a little bit of padding on turf. But if you were running down slope, you could just felt like you were just running the fastest that you've ever ran in your life. And we knew DeBrian Blanton was fast, and seeing it firsthand, he would grab that ball and go downhill, and he would just leave everybody behind. It was just, never seen it before in my life.
Can't take anything away from the Mules season, as they just had the great season, the greatest in history at Muleshoe. 14-1, went to the state semifinals, and just a lot to be proud of.
Okay, we about wrap this thing up. I appreciate you guys and the support you guys get and the way you guys listen today. But we have one more thing we would like to do today. I'd like my wife Jody to come forward. she has something she would like to read. I don't want to read it. The guys would probably not let me get through it, so I've asked her to come read it for me. It comes from a youngster that was on the line of scrimmage nearly every play, right on the line of scrimmage. He is y'all's ball boy, Wesley Wood. This is what he wrote.
On Tuesday, after we had played at Texas Stadium, Wes came to my room and he said, "Mom, I have to write a really, really long paper because I want to try out for the 4th grade UIL ready writing team." So that night, Coach Wood and I went to Lubbock, and when we got home, Wes came and he said, "Mom, I got the whole thing written." And this is the persuasion essay that he wrote. Mules football team. I will think about the Muleshoe football team. I will write a composition convincing you that the Muleshoe Mules are the best football team ever. I will be sure to use good reasons and details. The very first reason I think the Muleshoe Mules play 100% in all 4 quarters is the football players themselves. They're pretty cool, each and every one of them. They're nice and they don't talk back. I'm not just talking about Dani or Daryl, I'm talking about all of them. See, Wes's essay comes from someone who was very close to the game and players. As the ball boy, like Coach Wood said, he was on the line of scrimmage on nearly every play. Thank you for being the best football team ever and for being his hero. By the way, Wes made the ready writing team. Thank you.
Yeah, the state championship team, we had a lot of question marks, and one of the big ones was Wes Wood at quarterback. I knew he would be good because he was so smart, but everybody questioned his arm. Even, the coaches, Ralph Mason, David Wood, didn't really know about his arm, and he ended up having one of the best arms. He could throw the long ball prettiest you ever seen, and he had such a quick release that he'd get his receivers extra 5 yards by his quick release.
My varsity year, it was my junior year. It was my first year on the varsity football team. It was a great experience, man. I went in as an underdog and worked my way into the starting lineup as a defensive back, 2008, and every team just gunned for us, man. They knew we were going to be hard to beat, and just, they did everything in their power to knock us off the top. And with the coaching staff that Coach Wood had put together, the offense we ran and whatnot, it was pretty hard.
There was something special about those kids. They all had a common goal, and that was to do more than anybody else had ever done. That group of seniors I taught when they were 2nd graders. So I had quite a few of those kids, those boys in my class. And they were very competitive from 2nd grade on. And so we were all aware of their competitiveness and their desire to do something great.
For us, it wasn't, we never looked at playoffs as we're going to win state this year. That was never a goal. For us, I remember the first day of 2 days. We're all sitting in the locker room, and I believe it was Coach Benji J. He brought up the fact that we're not ranked. The year before they had been ranked. They had Garrett Riley, and they had a crushing loss in a freezing game in Plainview against Littlefield. And he had brought up that they didn't give us anything but a mention of a dark horse team, meaning we could be somebody, but we don't have the players to really be something in the playoffs. So we kind of used that.
I just could tell, hey, this is something different. You could just feel that motivation and that will to want to win. Starting from the coaching staff down to the athletic training department.
That was a team. If you look back, I think we was picked to finish 3rd in our district. And that team just kind of got to rolling. And it was just a good group of guys that played together. Wes Wood at quarterback. You had Lane Wood at running back. You had Victor Vasquez, one of the best players that played offense and defense. Ray Ramirez, a whole host of them. You had everybody played their role. The linemen, they just got after it. But it was just really team football that you'd see when they play other they play other teams, that this team worked as a group, and they wasn't just a bunch of individuals. They all worked together, and I think that was the biggest part of them getting all the way to the state championship.
They didn't have any weaknesses. They were strong on the offense. They were strong on defense. They were quick, and they had excellent special teams. You know, they were strong all the way around.
Not only athletically, but just in their mindset and their approach to the game. They were a tough group of kiddos. And what I remember surprisingly about that team was their defense. That team defense was outstanding.
2008, I believe there really wasn't a game that kind of stood out that made me start thinking we were special that year. I think every game we played, the coaches had a mindset and put it into our mind that it was a new game, and there was every opportunity to win or lose that game. So, but if I had to pick one, I would probably say it would be against Crane. I think we met them in Denver City, and they were ranked number 3 in the state, I believe.
Early in the season, when the Crane game was a really kind of big turnaround, Crane had a lot of great athletes, a lot of good team. And it was a high-scoring affair, and we won that ball game, and then of course getting through district, and not a lot everybody remembers, but we come real close to getting beaten by district that year, and Bushland made a couple of mistakes late, and we made them pay for it, and that kind of launched us into a momentum that carried us out, throughout the state championship.
From that one, it was cold. That wind always comes off that big hill there at Canyon, and I just remember everybody's freezing cold, and we're fixing to play. Crockett Gilmore, that was his name, I'm sorry. Crockett Gilmore plays now for the Baltimore Ravens, and I remember thinking that guy, he's somebody, he's going to go somewhere. I believe he was an Oklahoma State commit as well, but Crockett Gilmore, I remember him, and I remember a big play, like you said, it was a tight game the whole time. I believe we were down by a touchdown, and Bushland decided to kick an onside kick. And so front line goes up, we start blocking, and I remember Lane Wood diving in a head-to-head crash with another Bushland athlete and scooping up that game-turning fumble, and neither one of them moved after they hit. It was that big of a hit, and I just remember thinking our season's done. Our starting linebacker, starting fullback, he's hurt. He can't even move. We thought he was paralyzed, and it ended up being the Bushland kid. Lane pops right up, tosses the football, and he's ready to go. That was the kind of team, we had built and how tough everybody was, but he popped up, he was ready to go, and the Bushland kid unfortunately had to be carted off. I think he made a full recovery, but it was that big of an impact. That was a big game.
That entire state championship run, every one of those games, I was not one who believed the Mules were going to roll all the way. I was then, Caleb, our youngest, was on the team. My attitude was, my goodness, we've won another one. We'll just enjoy this one, and we'll just keep moving to the next one. And it never really held for me that we were going to go all the way, and when we get there, to win it all. And so I was one of the ones that let's just enjoy it from week to week. And then you look back on it, and every one of those games, David and his team, his coaches, made second half adjustments every week that the Mules came out and executed and put those games away on a consistent fashion, and every one of those games is remarkable for the way David was able to coach them.
I would say the turning point for me was walking onto Shotwell Field and in Abilene and knowing this team's pretty big. They got an offensive tackle who's a commit to, I believe it was Oklahoma State at the time. They got a running back that was one of the best in the state at the time, and when we walked onto that field, that team meant business and we meant business, and once we won that game, it was kind of, I had a buddy who was an offensive guard as well for the team, and we got on the bus, and I remember before that semifinals game, we were riding up there and we said, can you believe we're fixing to do the same thing the 2000 team did? And that's what we did growing up. We always referred back to the 2000 team. Man, Lincoln Riley, all those big time, Kyle Atwood, all those big time athletes that set the standard so high. We're fixing to go and match it and play in the same game they did. And so that was kind of a big eye.
And they will be playing in the state finals, like I said earlier, against Kirbyville. And that'll be next week in, I think that's Saturday at 6 o'clock. I believe that's what they said. And it'll be down by Dallas in Grand Prairie, down in the Dallas area.
Worthy of that introduction. I'm just glad you didn't pass out big speech over here. Man, what an atmosphere. This is as loud as I've ever seen this place. What a season. Awesome. Really, really, really proud of you guys.
People were like, hey man, you guys are doing great. Y'all go get it. Couldn't walk into a store without people wanting to take pictures with you because they knew you were on the football team. But it's an experience, that we'll never forget.
Before the state game, it was more of a speech of, hey, let's relax, let's play our game, don't get caught up. We had heard stuff about their fans, we had heard stuff about their players, and a lot of it was true, as we found out in that game. But a lot of it was just keep our cool, play our game, and have fun. We're in something that's never happened before for our town, and we just need to have fun, play our game. And
good evening, football fans. This is Bob Graves, Ronnie Jones, and Gil Robert Reynolds on the camera, and we're coming to you from the Gopher Warrior Bowl here in Grand Prairie, Texas. This is the site of the AA Division I State Championship football game between the Mules, who are 14-0, and the Kirbyville Wildcats, who are 13-0. The Mules head coach is David Wood, the offensive coordinator Ralph Mason, the defensive coordinator is Kirk Bird.
Huge game, but other than more fans and on both sides of the field, I really believe that it was just another game. And that's kind of how we played every game that year, was nothing bigger than the game in front of you. And that's kind of how we played that.
The fact that our side of the stands were completely filled. I mean, they were packed. People came from all over that area that knew about Muleshoe and Muleshoe Mules, and they came to watch the Muleshoe Mules play. We rode a charter bus. That was a lot of fun to ride together and to be able to review the game as we flew home.
Back to pass, looks, fires, and intercepted. Vasquez on the interception. Cross the 20, cross the 30, and he's out on the 37-yard line. They went for it all in, Bob, and Victor Vasquez jumped in between two would-be receivers. Center. In motion goes Lane Wood. Option. Has some running room. He has a lot of running room, Bob. He may go. Going to be caught from behind inside to the 5-yard line. No flags. And here is the snap. Good snap. Handoff, running play. And we scored. Sanchez.
And it's caught out there, caught by Caleb Conner, and no, is that Ray Ramirez? And empty backfield. Now, oh my goodness, a touchdown!
They're gonna drop it, and we got it. They missed the extra point. Option, running room, touchdown Muleshoe.
Okay, there's a little reverse play, and Vasquez.
I guess I'll never forget the touchdown that Wes made when he ran across the line and for a touchdown, and I don't think he ever ran that fast and with that much determination. ever in any other game than on that one. So
Big, good tackle there. Oh my goodness. That was Washington.
20. Be there, you know. Couldn't believe. I never thought there was that many people in Muleshoe, you know, and not just that.
He may
People from around other towns that were there to support us and really got really loud. You know, it was pretty cool. It was something different. You wouldn't expect that from a small school like that. You know, it was pretty cool.
I remember in that Kirbyville game, whenever we did win that state championship game, we had a goal line stand against Kirbyville. I think it was in an extra point conversion, and they went for the 2-point conversion, and we were able to stuff their big running back, and it made a big difference in that game. And to me, that was the turning point in that game.
I remember in the third quarter, it was a goal line stand with the running back. It was like at the 1-yard line. It was real close to the goal line. We had a big stop. It was a 4th down stop, and I remember watching the other team. We stopped them right there on the goal line where they kind of just lost all hope. They just, you know, deflated, and they just kind of dropped their head, and we knew we had them. We just had to just keep going and put that nail in the coffin, just seal the game.
Well, yeah, the first would be the state game, and I was just a fan of that, going to that game and being a part of that, just the atmosphere and the community, not even just the school, just the whole community, just getting out and backing those boys up and bringing home that state championship game. And then,
well, I think that they had a taste of it back about 2000 when they had a state run in the postseason play, and they kept thinking, you know, we can do this. And again, I think it's David and his coaching staff had the team buy into the fact that, yes, it's possible. We can do this. And each game, they seem to just get in better and better each time they play. It has to be the state championship in 2008. I just wanted to be sure that I lived long enough to see that happen, and I did. So that was a fun game to see.
To be honest, I never dreamed they'd win the state championship. And I remember what Ronnie Jones said as we were covering the game. After it was over, we went down on the field, and he interviewed some of the players, and of course they were just, everybody was celebrating, grabbing each other. And I remember what Ronnie said. He started interviewing one of the players or one of the coaches, and he said, "The Muleshoe Mules have finally won a state championship." And I'll never forget him saying it.
You can search the entire world, and I guarantee you, those boys on that football team right there have more heart than anybody in the entire world. They fight their hearts out. Doesn't matter if they're up, down, tied, whatever. And I tell you what, there's no other place in the world that I would rather be right now.
No doubt about it, and that's what's impressed us all year is how y'all play together and as close as you are. But Wes, again, congratulations on your year, and congratulations on the big state championship.
Thank you. I want to thank my mom. I want to say I love you, Mom.
The first time I remember meeting Jody was at a basketball game in the junior high gym, and our daughter Hannah was probably 2 or so and sat down beside Jody and looks inside her purse and sees probably 10 tubes of lipstick, and her eyes lit up, and the first thing Jody does is get one out and puts it on her. And from then on, it was family. My mom and I made her cheerleading outfit every year. She had to have something new. She was the one that always said, "Oh, I want it embroidered," or "I want the mule on it," or "I want something." And the closer it could look like the big girls' cheerleading outfits, the better. But she was not about to go to a game without one.
It was invaluable to us. They were just part of the huge prayer group at Muleshoe that just kept us going.
When we were getting ready to leave the hospital to come home, one of the nurses in Dallas asked us if anybody had anything planned. And we started telling them that we would start at Hannah's school and drive through, and they had a big things with all the signs there, and that we would go from there to the high school to the pep rally and the send-off to be honored. And everybody's like, "Well, she doesn't know high school kids." And we're like, "Oh no, she knows everybody and everybody knows her." And I know that was a very important time for the football team and an important game, and it was just a big honor that they would take the time to honor our fighter, because she would have been at every single game, every time if she had the honor.
We have a very special fan here today with us. Her name is Hannah Simmons. We did something special for her at the beginning of the season. She's back with us today. She came in from Dallas this last week. Today's her first day back in Muleshoe. We know she's going to be listening tonight on the radio. So the football team signed something and wants to give it to her. And this is our #1 fan of the football team.
That was a special thing. It was so much fun, and the boys and Coach Wood, they all welcomed us home and welcomed Hannah home with hugs and plaques, and it was a great send-off.
From the time we got to Muleshoe and we drove through the parking lot at Meredith Shazo and had the band, part of the band playing, the cheerleaders yelling, all the kids lined up with their handmade posters. It was quite a welcome home. And then when we came over to the high school parking lot for the pep rally, and David Wood and the players presented her with the plaque, as a Muleshoe fan, we really appreciated that.
At the game, Muleshoe traveled to Littlefield, and my father got to go. I stayed home with Hannah, but I do believe that the Mules pulled off the victory and won the district for the year and got to go on to the playoffs.
The school bond issue came down to two things. One was the financing offered by the state to come along beside schools like ours and help to upgrade the facilities. Without their coming alongside, the school bond issue would not have been even an option. But the winning program and the confidence of the community in what was going on at the school system had a huge role in passing that bond issue. People could look at the athletic program and know things were being done well at the school and have a confidence that their money would be well spent in those bond issues.
I was actually on the team that we went out into the community and sold the community on passing the bond. I think it was very, very important, and I think it's something that not only were we proud of at the time, but we'll continue to be proud of for many, many years. For a school like Muleshoe to have all of the facilities that we have, but I'm going to say the athletic facilities, but I'm proud of our entire school and the facilities that we've done with subsequent bond issues.
You know, that winning that state championship, like you say, it does do a lot for the community. And it was a little bit after that, or right around that time, that we were looking to upgrade our schools and for people, not only for our community, but as people came to visit our facilities and all. And I think it's important to have a good to have good facilities, not only for our local folks, but whenever people come and to compete at our facilities and use our facilities. And I think winning that state championship that year, it kind of bleeds into those things. And I think it was a very positive effect in our community. And I think the folks were willing to get behind that, and we were able to pass that bond and get our facilities improved, which was a good testament to our schools and also for our community, and a testament to the community that we wanted to improve our facilities for our kiddos and our communities.
It's a great night.
It is a great night. It's a great atmosphere, and a lot of people come out to see this gym, and great facility, and for many years to come.
Oh, absolutely. 20, 30, even more years.
Oh, no, yeah. I don't know. I wasn't here that long ago, but I just know I hear stories about it. But this is a great facility, and it's very welcoming for everybody to come see it. It was well designed, and maybe it's attractive for a lot of people to come over here and maybe want to coach here someday. And that's what it's all about this day. When they come and you interview coaches and they want to come see the facilities, and it's very attractive and it's state of the art.
I remember he would always be up to some crazy shenanigans after practice or after the game. Like, for instance, I remember he ate a worm one time in front of everybody.
But one of the funniest stories I think I remember about Coach Wood was Wes and Lane. They were always kind of jokesters, and they would tell us, "Hey, if you find a worm on the football field and you give it to my dad, he'll eat it." And we said, "We ain't gonna do that. He'll make us run. We're not gonna do that. That's not respectful. That's not what he'd want." And he said, "I swear, if you'll do it, he'll eat it." And so I think one day when we were kicking the field, somebody had found a worm, and they said, "Hey, should we give it to Coach Wood? Do you think he'll really do it?" And I said, "Let's try it." And so they gave it to Coach Wood, and he said, "Oh, protein," and he popped it right in his mouth and ate it, and then turned right back to what he was doing, totally serious. And I think from then on, everybody was trying to find worms as quick as they could to see how many worms Coach Wood would actually eat. So that was some of the fun things we would do with Coach Wood.
Probably everybody tells the story about him leaving one of his children in a convenience store. But I also remember, and it's not about football, but it was in the school and coaching realm. We were at La Mesa playing basketball, and one of my daughters was on the basketball team, and when they arrived, they were all pretty pale because Coach Wood was their bus driver that night.
Well, there is the story of him leaving Tyler, which was kind of, we're not sure, we're a little foggy on the time, but that may have been football, it may have been basketball, but it was certainly Amarillo at the Love's truck stop.
Yes, I remember going to, we stopped there. I think we were coming home from Perryton or somewhere up north of Amarillo. And a lot of us had stopped there at that Love's truck stop. And walking into the restroom, and there, I thought that's Tyler. I think it was Tyler was standing there by himself, and I didn't really think anything of it at the moment. And we walked outside, and then I realized his mom and dad weren't there, and I think the bus then came through and stopped. I think it was basketball, and they put him on the bus with the basketball team or something like that. I think is my vague memory.
Well, we had 4 sons. We had 4 kids too, and we understood how that could happen. But
we didn't let them forget that for a lot of years, you know.
Even in Amarillo, the community took care of its kids, including Tyler that day.
Yeah.
Now, this is not a football story, and I don't even know enough about it to talk about it hardly, but I do remember, it's kind of funny to me, the time when Jody had gotten a dog. I don't know if it was as a gift or whatever, but that little dog, and I don't think that dog ever warmed up to David. I remember David getting bit by that dog at one point. That dog did not care for David. I don't know why.
Never figured that one out. Yeah.
Debbie and I traveled with David and Jody in 2003 to San Diego. And David had done some plane travel, but not a lot of plane travel at that point. And I'll just offer a couple of observations from that trip. He was a little mystified why the baggage handlers at the curb were angry when he left his bags and walked away. You can assume what he did not do in that situation, and I covered for him, but lest he arrive in San Diego with no bags. And when we were in San Diego, David wanted a steak. So we spent 30, 45 minutes walking up and down the sidewalks of the gas lamp district looking for a place that offered a steak that at a price that David was willing to pay. And let's just say that TGI Fridays came through for David in one of the great cities of the country, or the world, really.
I've had the opportunity to travel with David quite a bit, and on a humorous side, David is always famous for forgetting to bring money along when it come time to eat. So the standing joke among most of us that traveled with David is we made sure that we had plenty of money to feed David along with ourselves. Taco Bell, he loves Taco Bell.
Just finishing up practice, and we were sitting around, and we were fixing to break out to go home, and I happened to look down, and by my football helmet there was an earthworm, and everybody had always said Coach Wood would eat earthworms, and I was just kind of like skeptical about it, so I picked it up and I kind of cleaned it off, and hey, Coach, got an earthworm for you. He just kind of cleaned it off and just ate it. I was kind of shocked. It was kind of weird, but it is. He'd do anything for his athletes. It's funny.
Well, some of the things that he would do during two-a-days was pretty comical. When we were in junior high, he would do this thing on two-a-days. Early mornings, we'd be sitting out there stretching, dew all over the field, and these earthworms would be coming out of the ground. And he was dared to eat an earthworm. And of course, he just picked it up, just tossed it right in his mouth, not a second thought. And that shocked everybody. And that kind of became a thing to do every year. Hey, Coach Wood, eat an earthworm. And he'd pop an earthworm in his mouth. And a couple times we'd get a good rain, and there was a ditch that right next to the practice field that would fill up with water. And he ended up jumping in that one day with the rest of the team. And some of those things kind of stick out in my mind.
Driver in America. I can pretty much tell you that. and anybody else that has rode with him can pretty much tell you that. But he, other than being a horrible driver, he's a lot of fun to be out on trips and different things. But just don't let him drive.
I have given the Wood boys a few haircuts over the years, from the time they were in junior high till probably in their adult days. Their schedules didn't really match the barbershop or places that they could go and get a haircut. And so late at night after football practice, they would come over and Dawn and I would visit with them, and I'd give them a haircut to get them to pass inspection by Coach Wood the next day.
You know, we're in track season, and I remember being a sophomore or freshman. One of those years, me and a buddy, we were running track, and we didn't have a field event. So, you know, Coach Wood's the high jump coach, and we head over there. He wants us to try out, and he's going through all the basics, the fundamentals, and we're like, hey, yeah, we could do this, Coach. So I get up there, and I go through, and from what I could remember, I'm pretty sure I cleared the bungee, but, you know, I look back at Coach Wood, and he just looks at me and says, you could go back to running. So I don't know, I guess I didn't make the cut, but that was a funny memory for me.
One thing about Coach Wood, and I've not seen this much personally, but his ability to eat is legendary.
Yes.
You know, and he's just in great shape. But this is a guy who ate the big Texan 72-ounce steak dinner and lived to talk about it.
I thought it was a great opportunity that his coach's twin brother Don was on here as well, and it was a privilege to get to know both families and to feel this family support that came to both of them when they were here, and the family support because all the aunts and uncles and the grandparents and in-law grandparents all came to the games and to the act. But Jenks has always said, Coach Wood is just a lot more than just a coach. You know, he's an example and a guide as to those that he has coached. And he's a man of integrity and has the genuine and a positive influence on our school as well as on our community. Coach and Jody have the ability to bring out the best in the people that they're with or the people that they serve.
I'd just like to have one final word and wish Jody and David very happy and successful retirement. We know that you're going to stay busy. You're not going to be two people that sit around and do nothing. And your future is going to be bright, and you're going to have fun doing it. Retirement is great. Enjoy it and make the most of it.
And we are very much going to miss you in Muleshoe.
My mind that David will enjoy success in his next line that he goes to after retiring from coaching. It's been a pleasure and a very rewarding trip with David Wood during his tenure at Muleshoe High School.
And in talking about David and all his years up here at Muleshoe, he'll know what I'm talking about. Nobody else will, but I'd like him to refer back to the letter, and he'll know what I'm talking about. The letter that he first got when he first came to Muleshoe. But if you'd go through, David's been here 22 years at Muleshoe High School. I believe, counting the gold footballs and the state plaques that they give out, the real nice state plaques, you got to get to the semifinals to get them. I believe there's 38 that he's been on teams with up here at the high school. If you'll count in the trophy cases before or go read any of the archives, they was 10 before he arrived. Muleshoe High School has been 70 years maybe up there. And, I think they've got 48 total awards in football, and he's responsible for 38 of the 48, and that's a big accomplishment. But I just wanted him to refer back to that letter on what it said when he got there, But you know, he's a great man, and that's the thing. He's a great coach, but he's a better man than he is a coach. So he's a good